Well, hello and welcome to the Overdevest YouTube channel. I'm David Wilson here on a beautiful sunny morning in the early part of early summer. It's a pleasure to welcome you here onto one of our properties where we test and trial a lot of the plants that we send out to our partnering garden centres right throughout this whole region. That's the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states of the US. And if you haven't already, can I suggest that you think about subscribing to our channel, and if you like any of our videos and enjoy the content and think it's valuable for other people, it would be nice if you could hit the like icon too, because that will make the videos and information more available to other people as well. Now here in this garden, as you see, we've got a beautiful show right now of these, the hardy ornamental sages, or sometimes known as the meadow sages. I just love the beautiful dark sparkling blue, violet blue color that we get from some of these absolutely gorgeous varieties. And I also like the way my boss and his wife have contrasted that color with the dark purple cutleaf Japanese maple and the whites of this gorgeous little azalea, which is Azalea Helen Curtis, and also the white flowers and evergreen foliage of the Leucothiae. Beautiful combinations. The pure white color of this little azalea helps to set off the beautiful dark and very easy to grow salvia. Now the word salvia comes from the Latin salvare, meaning to heal, and that's from the times of the ancient apothecaries when they believed that some of the species had healing properties. And I suppose in today's world that's kind of appropriate, because whenever we're growing all of these gorgeous plants together, it can't help but make you feel better, makes you feel well. Certainly here with the sun shining and watching the pollinating insects and also smelling the aroma from the aromatic foliage, it certainly helps me de-stress. Helps with the old blood pressure and all the other stresses that we go through in today's life. And also, of course, the fact that blues and purples is a lovely blue kind of cooling color. And that's the fabulous thing about being able to have a garden and growing things like this. Now, there's lots of different sorts of salvias. In fact, I understand there's as many as 900 different species of salvia, very large plant family. Most of them are not hardy. About half of them come from the Americas, and these ones are descended from species that are native to Europe, to Central and Eastern Europe, and even up into Russia and into Siberia, which gives you some idea of the hardiness and reliability of the genetics that are in these plants. And the really great thing about them is that they really are honestly very easy plants to grow, and with a couple of little tricks which I'll show you in a moment will help you get a long extended period of color from them too. As long as they've got about half to 3/4 of a day's sunlight, they will grow in some shade, but when they're in shadier conditions, they tend to grow up a bit taller and be open and more lax. So they're really better out in sunny conditions. As for soil, just an average soil is fine, as long as it's free draining. That's important. They don't like to grow in damp, wet conditions. So an open, friable, average soil will be just fine. And when you plant them, of course, give them plenty of water until they get established, and also put down a good layer of mulch like this. And then you'll find, like these plants, that they're going to grow and give you tremendous performance. And as for maintenance or things that need doing, there really isn't very much. In early springtime after the winter, you might find some old foliage like this left over, which case you can remove it. And also, like we've done on some of the other videos, I like to put down a little light sprinkling of a well-balanced fertilizer. That helps to get them off to a good start. And because this is a slow release formulation, it keeps working for a good long time during the season. Outside of that, there's only one other thing that I think is important to have done, and that's to deadhead them so that they keep on reblooming through the season. And what that means is coming in when the flowers are just beginning to go over. When you get like they are here, at least 2/3 of the flower spike is spent and there's only a little bit of flower left on the top. That's the time to trim them back so that they will then refurnish and rebloom again from the bottom. Now when you get good at it and you have a lot to do, you can use a pair of hedging shears, but I like to use a pair of pruners, and it's really just a matter of reaching in and then just trimming off the old flower heads like you see, getting this material out there and cutting it back to a node where there's young buds just emerging again. Let me show you this in a little bit more detail. If you look at the stems here, and you'll see that the stems on Salvia are square. They're really quite remarkable in that they have these square stems. Here's the stem, here's the spent flowers, and down here you'll see there's a joint coming out with a little bit of growth on it and already an embryonic flower bud. The same on the other side, they're opposite. So at this point, that's where you get in with the pruners and you snip it off, and then as you see what's happening now is that these young growths are going to grow out. So you do that pretty much all over the plant, going back to a node again. As you see, here's the joint pattern, there's the stem and the old flowers, and so that's where you take it off just above that growth. And then what happens is that stimulates lots of growth from inside the plant, and then it will grow out. Now this first flush in early summer is always the strongest. It comes up and gives lots and lots of good strong growth. But what's interesting about this is that if you keep doing this and we get a nice mild autumn and you do it regularly enough, you can get it, believe it or not, you can get these to flower at least 3 times in the one season. So it's worth taking a little bit of care and just trimming off the old growth, what we call deadheading, and you trim off that old growth, and then you'll get plenty of renewal growth that's going to come again from the crown of the plant. Not quite as strong, it's true, but it's still going to come up nicely. And then again, another one in the fall, and maybe, just maybe, if we get a nice mild autumn, you might even, with some varieties, get 4 flushes out of it in the 1 year. Now they're nice and drought tolerant and don't need much more maintenance except that. But if we get any prolonged dry spells, it might be worth giving them a shot or 2 of water just to keep them growing, keep them nice and lush and flowering. Now it might seem a little severe, but as you can see, it's busy strong growing here and producing lots of young growth which is going to come out, and by doing this you're going to be able to keep them going all through the season. You might want to leave it a little longer than I did and take them off when most of these old flowers have really finished, and that's okay. But if you get the cycle going, you'll be able to keep plenty of rebloom happening on your plant. Now if you want to find out more about all of the different sorts of ones that you can grow in your garden, you can go to our website. There's, I think, about 65 different sorts showing on there, but also here on this channel you'll be able to dive in and see in a great deal more detail the individual features and characteristics of a lot of these varieties. This particular one is one of my favorites. This is, of course, to those of us that are experienced gardeners, Salvia May Night. an exceptional variety that's been chosen by the Perennial Plant Association as their Plant of the Year. The Royal Horticultural Society gave it an award of garden merit and numerous other awards too. It was raised in Germany by the great Karl Foster and goes a long way to show what a terrific plant this is, because he is famous for bringing out lots of really good varieties during his lifetime. Started as a young gardener as a child, then took over his father's nursery, ran it right through the Great Depression, through the Second World War in Germany, and then afterwards in East Germany, behind the Iron Curtain, introduced something like 350 different varieties, half of which are probably still in commerce today. Shows you a great deal about the selection and breeding process that he brought forward. And this is one of his famous plants and a terrific performer if you're looking to get a perennial that's tough, hardy, easy to look after, and gives you a terrific display. And then elsewhere here in the garden is another fabulous block of another variety that was raised in Germany that is in fact connected to Karl Foster. This is Salvia Blue Hill, a really great variety because it's short and compact, very free flowering, just like May Night, very easy to grow, but also the clearest blue salvia that I know of in the market today. Now, what's interesting about this plant is that this was raised by another German gentleman called Ernst Pagels. Now, Pagels was working on Foster's nursery in Potsdam in Germany, and the story goes that one day in 1949 Foster handed Pagels a bag of seed and said, "Seek and you will find." Well, Pagels took the seed, sowed it, developed it, then interbred the varieties, and in 1955 introduced the first of the seedlings from that bag of seed. And then a little bit later on came up with this variety. This is Salvia Blue Hill, a really magnificent top-class variety. And then, of course, in modern times, there's been a lot of very talented plant breeders bringing us all sorts of exciting new varieties too. Some that are shorter and more compact, some with bigger flowers, ones that are white and really neat shades of pink and even towards a kind of red shade, and bicolors too. Lots of really exciting ones that I hope you'll get a chance to grow in your garden. And remember that you just don't have to have a garden to be able to enjoy these. You can grow them in containers and they make a wonderful cut flower too. Last longer than many people think. These are the meadow sages. I'm David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us and it's very good for our environment too.